All right, awesome. Great drinks. John, I think, is done with his. I'm almost done with mine. So we better move the show along and get into
beer spirit or pop culture reference. I'm going around the horn giving these guys a term and they're going to guess at it, right? So here is this week's term. Pyruvate. Pyruvate is this week's term. I think this week I'm going to start with Jeff Eccles.
Such a dick. John Ruyak, would you please spell that for us?
Pyruvate.
Pyruvate. Pyruvate. Okay. This one is really. This one feels like you're double dipping into the well with your weblock or whatever you went with the last time you had this. That was some kind of brewing term. This feels like, would the P always be capitalized on this one?
No.
This just feels like the brand name for something that you're using in the brewing process that you're doing. This is some kind of additive that you're using in the brewing process. I'm going to say this is a beer term.
Yeah, okay, Eccles says this is a beer term. Cole, give us your best out of your guess as to what pyruvate is.
Okay. My guess, I'm not familiar with this term. I am happy to pontificate on its possible meaning. I would say it is a distilling term and possibly beer term maybe, for open roasting of grains. I'm going to leave pyre, sounds like something that would have fire in it. So that's, yeah, over like you would roast malt barley over peat fire, but not that specific. Some variation on that. That's my.
Know what? That's a much more interesting guess than Eccles's guess.
way more interesting.
Way more interesting. I like that. Solomon, the biology teacher, why don't you tell us what pyruvate is?
So my goodness. So if it comes to wine, beer, or spirits, this is going to count. But also when it comes to food, this is going to count. Pyruvate, which is also known as pyruvic acid, during the process of cellular respiration or fermentation, the very first stage is called glycolysis, where you take a glucose molecule and you split it right down the middle. So glycolysis, right? What you end up with is two molecules of pyruvate, also known as pyruvic acid. Each one of them is carrying three carbon molecules. And that carbon is important because in the presence of oxygen, those pyruvic acid molecules are going to be broken down in the Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle. And as it's getting ATP and it's generating electron carriers that'll later go onto the electron transport chain, there is carbon dioxide that is produced as well. So that's where those carbons are going from that molecule. But those carbon dioxides are also carbon dioxide is also produced in the absence of oxygen. Our muscle cells, when they don't get enough oxygen, they go through fermentation or anaerobic respiration, where those two pyruvic acids get converted into lactic acid, which is what makes your muscles sore. Thank you, Cody. It is. I don't know why John chose it. But in yeast cells, they do this magical thing where instead of producing lactic lactic acid. And by the way, that's the same lactic acid that makes cheese really tangy, and shows up during like malolactic fermentation. But yeast, if you cut off its oxygen supply, it's going to take that sugar, break it down into pyruvic acid, and the pyruvic acid is then converted into, you end up getting alcohol and carbon dioxide, and that's what makes your drinks so wonderful.
So is this a wine term, a spirit term, or a beer term?
It's I'm going to say pop culture reference because this biology teacher is on summer vacation.
Oh, I think Solomon wins. That's a good one. But everybody thinks that yeast just takes a glucose molecule and turns it immediately into alcohol and carbon dioxide, and it's like a 9 or 11 step process. It's insane, and the Krebs cycle diagrams are just nuts. You get lost because it goes over several pages.
It's not,
anyway.
No, by the way, like my explanation, I don't think I'd get full credit on an AP exam for that.
Whatever.
But nobody should know that much about that stuff.
All right. Style points to Cole. Right answer to Solomon. Pyruvate.
Cole, did you have any idea?
John just left the show.
I had no idea. I'm not. Although electron chains, that all vaguely sounds like things I learned and forgot at the end of the semester.
The electron transport chain.
Biology for non-science majors was very much my speed.